Lauren, if you could put it in the chat box, that would be great. If there's a number for someone to call in, that would be wonderful. But as we're saying, the the Continuum of Care meets once a year in our general membership, and then we have a membership or a semi-annual meeting where we do a wrap-up of point in time count and those kinds of things every February. So we'll go ahead and start sharing the screen, if you will, Lauren. And for the record, we are being recorded, so we can have a record of this, and then we can put it out there for those who weren't able to join us today.
Yes.
If everyone can please mute themselves, that would be great.
Pat, it never fails. As soon as you get the connections, coworker wants to talk to you.
They've been talking to you all day, and now they want to talk to you. We can go ahead and move on, Lauren. Let's go ahead and go to the agenda slide, please. We've got lots and lots of things to cover today. Just when we thought that we had the agenda all set, then we had some other changes to come about, but it's all really good stuff going on. Just really quickly, we'll talk about what the Continuum of Care is, and how do we how do you become a member of the Continuum of Care? Membership is free, so there you go. Mr. Lou was just talking about money as a driver. Well, we don't have to you don't have to spend any money to be a member of the Continuum of Care. If you want to go ahead and advance the slide for me, Lauren. The Continuum of Care is literally the coming together of all of us in meeting the needs and serving those who are experiencing homelessness in our community. Sorry, the thing keeps moving in front of me. And we do this, by providing funds and oversight and the like for programs in our community, and having allowing or assisting the clients experiencing homelessness to access mainstream services. And that's income, that's insurance, that's employment, that's benefits, and those kinds of things, with the ultimate goal of helping them to optimize their self-sufficiency. The Continuum of Care is made up of a myriad of organizations. Some of them are listed on the next slide, Lauren, if you will, please. Next, faith-based organizations, victim service organizations, all the providers that service our clients, take care of the needs of those experiencing homelessness, and those who are just generally advocates and community partners who want to make this community a better place for all of us. And we'll go on to the next slide. Joining again the Continuum of Care is a very simple process. We have a one-page fillable form, and just get some general information, and then we go on to ask about serving on some of the committees, which are literally at the heart of the Continuum of Care. We have our coordinated entry committee. We have our application committee, who does the application for federal funding for those that are funded through the Continuum of Care program. We have our mainstream outreach, which is literally going out and interacting with folks who are precariously housed, unsheltered, but also making the connections between the providers, the service providers, the needs that need to be met, and the clients who have those needs. Our HMIS or data committee, that's our committee that manages, advises, reviews all of our information in our homeless management information system, or our database, where we do tracking, analysis, and reporting. And then also our point in time count. Point in time count is done once a year, and it's literally where members of the community, providers, we all volunteer and go out and do assessments of those experiencing homelessness in our community, whether they've been in shelter or literally unsheltered and on the street, under bridges, on the Riverwalk, and things like that. There will be a link to the membership form in the presentation today, so that everybody will be able to, if you don't currently belong to the Continuum of Care, you can join it. And then probably in the next month or so, we're going to be sending out to everybody just a little sheet to make sure that we have all of your information correct. Make sure your phone number hasn't changed, or because we saw in our latest email blasts that we sent out to folks, we had several that bounced back because of changes in emails and those kinds of things. So we'll be doing some updates on that as well. So that's what the Continuum of Care is. And I think I saw Marquette McKnight join us here. And she's going to go over for us. Some of you may have already heard this. And for that, I'm sure you'll, like every time I hear Marquette talk about Columbus Cares, I learn something different. But Marquette's going to talk to us about some funding availabilities for, again, the myriad of organizations represented here today. So Marquette, it's all yours.
Thank you, Pat, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to y'all today. As Pat said, I think most of you probably have already heard about the Columbus Cares program, but in case you haven't, I'm going to give you just a quick overview and some places that you would want to get more information from. The Columbus Cares program is the city's share, Columbus's share of the federal CARES money that was sent to the state, and we are now awaiting our state funds. Those state funds will be accessed by local organizations through an application process. These are this particular CARES funding is for businesses, nonprofits, small businesses, nonprofits, community assistance, healthcare, medical organizations in Columbus that have unreimbursed COVID-related expenses. And the best way I can describe it is if you had an expense that was related directly to COVID that was not reimbursed by any other entity or any other funding, including donor funding, then you are eligible to put in an application and for reimbursement for those expenses. I will tell you that the city's share of this particular CARES fund is $34 million. Now, a chunk of that will obviously be from the city's expenses, because almost everything that the city has been doing that's COVID related is covered. But it also leaves a goodly bit of number for community assistances, small community assistant nonprofits, of which that would be in your realm. So I'm going to be specifically talking about your realm as it applies to the Continuum of Care agencies and organizations. Churches are eligible for this funding if they do community assistance work. They do not, you have to have if you are a nonprofit, you have to have your 501c3. You do not have to have a business license or anything else. Those are for businesses. But you do have to have a copy of you have to be a licensed 501c3 from the IRS. Or if you're a church, you have to be doing mission work. This is not basically for churches to open back up or provide expenses, unreimbursed COVID-related expenses for a church, but for the mission work that they might do, which is probably similar to many of yours if you're not already representing your churches, that you work with homeless populations. Some of the eligible expenses that are eligible for reimbursement are anything that you've spent for food assistance, for shelter assistance, to help people with rent and or housing, sheltering, transportation, funeral assistance, medical assistance, anything that you would, and also for your organization, if you are Home for Good, I'll just use Pat's organization as an example. If they had to upgrade technology, because they're all working from home now, so if they had to upgrade their technology and they had to buy a laptop, they had to buy a mobile hotspot, if they had to install a firewall at Pat's home because she's having to work from home now, technology expenses are allowed. We had a question yesterday about technology expenses based on a new software. It was for, and Martha Bob might be on this this call, but Martha Roberts from CVEM, they had to buy a software program that enabled them to do case management from people's homes. Their case management people normally do intake one-on-one in person, but they couldn't do that at home with the enormous amount of paper that that's requiring. So they had to buy a software system that would allow them to do case management over the phone. That's a perfectly legitimate COVID-related unreimbursed expense that they didn't get any money from anybody else for. So those are the kinds of costs. If you are providing those sheltering in place, rent assistance, all the things that y'all do to assist homeless populations, would be included in these expenses. There are two things to, well, actually there are about four things to remember, but the big thing is that the application is a digital application, and it's available at columbusga.gov/Columbus Cares. That's the city website. So you can just go to columbusga.gov, and then you'll see the landing page that has all this information on it with the Columbus Cares package. And then this is you have to do an application, which is a fairly simple application. Truthfully, I've done a lot of grant work in my life, and so we made this very easy. I will tell you that this is not like most of the grants that you usually apply for, in that we apply for grants. We've got a great program over here that we want you to fund, and so we tell you what the program is going to cost, and then there's an evaluative part where some group, I'm the past year of the Community Foundation board, where many of you have received funds from. We take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months to review grant applications. This is not an evaluative grant application. We're looking for money that you've already spent that's COVID related, unreimbursed. So you'll fill out that fairly short application. There are several documents that you have to upload. You have to upload your 501c3 letter. You have to upload other things. You have to certify certain things about your organization. But it's basically just basic information. Then you have an Excel spreadsheet where you're going to line item out every single expense that you've had. It's very, very easy. I mean, I think it's a very easy application process. The hard part about the application process is that you have to provide supporting documents with that application. And it's not, we did not have time to utilize software that would allow you to do half of your application and then save all that work and then come back and fill in stuff. You either fill it out all at once or you don't fill it out, because, or risk not being able to have your application approved, because this is not a save as you go document. So you'll fill out that Excel file. That's a template in there that tells you exactly how to fill it out. And then you need to provide supporting documents. So for example, if you provided thermometers to your shelter to take a temperature of your clients as they were coming into the shelter at night, and you had to buy 5 thermometers, you would put that 5 thermometers, you would upload the invoice for those 5 thermometers, the invoice or the receipt, and a proof of payment. And the city has been pretty strict about that. They will require you to have a proof of payment. You can't just upload a receipt and said, we bought, it was to Charlie's Medical Supply and we bought X number of things. You've got to prove that you paid for it as well. So, because remember, these are paid expenses, not going forward. It's going backward, basically, with what you've already expended. The other things that, any kind of sanitation, if you're having to do extra special cleaning, if you're having to do buy lots of disinfectant, if you're having to buy Clorox wipes, if you're hiring a company to come in and do things to your shelter that require specialized cleaning, all of that is eligible, and all of the eligibility things are included on the website. And I say all of them because truthfully, the city of Columbus, you can be rest assured that your city government is working as hard for you as I've ever seen them work on something. And we've turned this whole program around in about in less than a month's time. I mean, that's the leeway that the state has given us to create this program. So I keep saying we are flying this plane and building it at the same time. And I'm just, praying every day that we don't crash before the deadline of August 24th. You can email us questions at columbuscares@columbusga.gov. But I would say you definitely please go to the website, even though the FAQs are very long, because we've tried to apply it for every instance. Read all those FAQs thoroughly. Fill out, look at the application, look at the overview, see what's covered. And if you honest to goodness can't find something, then email us. If you have an expenditure that you have a question on, or some question about uploading or downloading the template, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. The deadline for the CARES application is August 24th, Monday, which is 2 weeks from this past Monday. It's a very short window. We actually got that expanded because it was only going to be a week and a half. We got it expanded last week. But I'm telling people to go ahead and put in their applications now. And the reason for that is that at this point, when we get an application that we've got a question about, or that something doesn't seem right on that application, that we need more documentation on something, we've got time to email you when we get that application in and say, hey, wait a minute, you forgot to upload your 501c3 IRS letter, or you forgot to include the credit card statement for this one item. We've got time to do that. If you wait until the Friday before that Monday deadline, I can't guarantee that that we're going to be able to have the time to follow back up with you if you didn't include something that had to be included. We had a lot of questions yesterday about, there will be things that we might say on your application. I'm just going to pick Tammy R. Tammy, we might say our financial review team, we have a financial review team who checks all these applications as they come in and verifies all the financial documentation. They might say, we're not going to allow this expense is not allowed, but the rest of these are. You won't necessarily know what they've said is allowed. Once we amass all these applications, we turn them over to the city. The city enters them into the state portal, and then we await for now we've reviewed them. The state has, the city has reviewed them. They've entered in the state portal, and then we wait for the state to review it as well. And they will send us the money at some point this fall, we hope. The money that's there, as I said, $34 million. We are hoping that there will be a second round of funding, but I do not believe that we will do a second round of applications, because I think we're going to get more than 34 million in applications, if it's any indication what we received since Monday. So I'm telling people, put everything in that you can now, and then if we do have, let's say we get $50 million worth of applications, but we only get our 34 million from the state, then we will prorate it equally amongst the organizations. And so you don't have to worry about, if you get 80% of your costs reimbursed, so did Piedmont, Columbus Regional, they got 80% of theirs. So everybody will get the same share of a prorated money if we have more than the 34 million. Our goal is to get 34 million, because there's a mechanism with the state that if, for example, Harris County was eligible for 12 million, but they only apply for 10 million, the state has said they're going to take that $2 million, and any other county that doesn't apply for all their money, put it back in a pot and re-put it back out to all the counties that did submit more than they were eligible for. So we're hoping to get as much money as we can. We just want to make sure that we're making eligible expenses that are COVID related, non-reimbursed expenses. That was a lot of information in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Marquette. There's a couple of questions.
Okay.
Denise McWhorter had asked, is there a contact person? And then Lauren posted the link to the Columbus Cares on there. And then on the slides here, we also have the link to and this slides will be available as soon as we end this meeting today. That will be posted to the Home for Good website, and we'll send a link out to everybody in attendance today. But as far as contact, so you want the emails to go to that Columbus Cares at columbusga.gov.
And realizing that the reason we're doing that, I'm a face-to-face person or a phone call person. Call me and ask me, but we are asking people to make their queries so that we are, we are my firm. I should have said that my firm, Media Marketing More, was hired by the city as the project manager for this grant program. We've learned a lot, and it's been a fascinating project, and we've really, really, truly enjoyed working with the city, because they have just been so good about all this and trying to make sure that people are made as whole as they can help make them with the organizations. But the reason that, so we have to provide a lot of documentation to the city, and we're asking people to email us those queries because we want to have documentation of what our response was. And we're probably getting in now about 10 queries an hour. And we're responding to people. If we can't respond to you right off and answer your 14 questions, we say we're checking on some of these. We'll get back with you as soon as we can. But our goal is to get every question answered within a 24-hour period. And we're pretty much within an hour right now. But that way we can document our responses, and we also use those questions that we're getting via email to update the website and add additional FAQs as we're coming up with it. I will tell you that although we have the FAQs and the overview, there are things that we are learning about that are generated from a question that somebody might have. We initially had recovery planning that you could put in for recovery planning. In other words, my understanding of that was recovery planning, meaning what do we do what is our plan for when we come out of this, how we will get back to normal or whatever. And the city and the state basically said, that's not what that's for basically for public safety's recovery planning. So we had to take that one out. So that's no longer in. Hazard pay, for many of you are paying hazard pay for people who work in your shelters. And for, an additional pay, not payroll, but additional pay that does result in payroll. We have eliminated any payroll payout for this. So anything that you do with payroll, whether it's COVID related or not, is not eligible for this program. So if you're paying people hazard pay, that's on y'all. There may be another opportunity for funding for you from someplace else, but not in this one. So I say take all that with a grain of salt, that some of the things are changing as we get more. We get a daily bulletin from the Georgia Municipal Association that outlines more details about what they mean when they say PPE supplies, when they tell us that this is included, but this is not. So we're changing those, and we're trying to let people know as soon as we know that they're changing.
There's another question, Marquette, from Lori. Okay. Is there a specific time frame for the paid expense? For example, March 19th through August the 1st or whatever. What is the time period?
Good question. Great question. The time frame is odd because the time frame is March 1 through December 30. Okay. And so you're like, but the deadline is August 24th. So how would you know what you were going to spend on December 30? So the way this is that the way it works is that it's any expense that you had since March 1, that, for example, if you ordered 500 masks to see you through December, that's what you thought you would be using for the people who were in your shelter, or that you were helping, or for your employees, whatever you ordered, it's anything that you would use by December 30th, but you're going to have to pay for that ahead of time. So it's the expenses are expenses that you've already expensed. We did have a couple of applications that came in yesterday where they had literally just ordered things from Amazon and were including all the receipts and everything else, but they had just ordered them, and it looked like to be PPE supplies, wipes and Clorox disinfectants, etc. But the intent of this is for expenses that you've already had, not for you to stock up on supplies. And I say to people, don't stock up on supplies thinking you're going to get wholly reimbursed, because that's not going to happen. But if you know that you can go ahead and order supplies, that you already ordered supplies in March for the rest of the year, then you're good. Or if it was technology software that you had to buy a software package for a year, then you're using it for the year, and you're having to do that. One thing that would apply to your shelters that I just thought about is if you had to do anything that was construction, retrofit, anything for your shelter, that is to provide for safety and social distancing because of COVID. If you, and I'm making this up because I don't know what you would do, but if you had to space cots further apart and put up partitions, plexiglass partitions between people, or retrofit something that would, because of COVID, those construction items, renovation, retrofit, are eligible. So that could be a huge line item for y'all. I've used Neil Richardson several times as an example of the things that I know Neil had to do to get his shelter up and ready to account for COVID social distancing. So that's included as well. But the time frame, obviously you have to enter all this before August 24th. So you have to have paid for it by August 24th. And the city will be, when they disperse the money, you have to attest to all these, you have to certify to all these things, but they will also be sending you a letter before they send you the money. And they will be saying, you are affirming, you are testifying with your signature that the money that you are about to receive was expensed. It was not reimbursed by any other source of CARES funding, insurance, or donor related reimbursement. And that you actually used the products and the things that you ordered and paid for in the manner that was COVID related unreimbursed expense. So they will ask you, and again, y'all are the good guys. I realize that, and women, the good guys and the good gals. And so we're taking you at your word when you give us the application that those expenses are true and authentic. We're not going to be nobody's coming to your office to check on that stuff. Bless you, whoever just sneezed. But we're asking too for you to be truthful and honest and adhere to the intent of this funding as well as the heart of this funding.
Thank you, Marquette. Are there any other questions for Marquette before we go to our next speaker? We'll give it about 15 seconds, and then we'll conclude with this part of our presentation. Marquette, I was on yesterday looking at the website and looking at the application, and if I could suggest to because you're right, you can't start it and not finish it. I simply did screenshots so that I knew what the questions were and filling that out in a Word document so that I can simply copy and paste it.
That's a good idea, Pat. So that's a good idea.
Application. So just an idea for others.
Yeah, and so just for some comic relief, we did get an application in last night or night before last from a woman in Louisiana. She didn't fill out the template. But it was basically just her name and email address on the application, and her supporting document was a copy of her driver's license. And I was saying to Annie, I was like, maybe that works in Louisiana. Maybe she's just like randomly doing this CARES packaging, applications all over the United States. Somebody somewhere maybe is going to send her some money. I don't know, but and I will say too, this is Columbus, Muskogee County. So I know the continuum of care follows over into other counties and over across to Alabama. But if you have to be a Muskogee County 501c3, you have to be in Muskogee County. This is Alabama got their own CARES program, and every other county in Georgia has their own CARES program. So if you're not in Muskogee County, check with your local county officials to see how that money might be eligible for you. But this is only for Muskogee County. So if you are a shelter up in Harris County, you are not eligible for this money.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much today
You're
for
welcome.
joining us, Marquette, and lots of great information. Again, the links to the application, the FAQs, and the email address will be included in today's presentation that will go out this afternoon to everyone. All the links work. We checked them to make sure that everyone could use them right from there. Again, thank you again, Marquette, and we're going to move on in the agenda. And if I remember the agenda correctly, our next presenter, I believe, is our good friend Candace from 211.
Hey, Pat, thanks very much. So you had a little slide up there for me. I do have a presentation. Lauren, can I request control? All right, let's see if technology is going to be my friend today. Are y'all seeing my screen? Yep. All right.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the different ways to connect to 211. Of course, for those of you who don't know, 211 is that easy to remember number to dial for when people are in need. They can be linked to community resources. And so usually the easiest way to contact 211 is to simply dial 211. There is a 10-digit number associated with 211, which is 706-405-4775. And the reason we give this out is because of cell phones. The way cell phone towers connect sometimes, if you're in Columbus, especially in downtown Columbus, and you're calling from your cell phone, you may actually be connected to the Alabama statewide 211. So if you dial the 10-digit number, you're always insured to reach our call center, which is actually in Atlanta. You'll notice I have a few little asterisks there by dialing, and that's just to remind me that this is the best way for people to complete a coordinated entry intake. Our call agents are well trained and can complete the intake. It takes just a couple of minutes. They are also then able to offer different resources that the individual who is in need might be looking for. And it does help as well with handwriting. We do get the paper Appendix B from many agencies, which is great. But sometimes the handwriting is illegible. Sometimes, it's hard to make out a telephone number, and it adds on to the time waiting. So if I get a faxed intake in, it may take me a day or two to process it, and then it takes Tammy another day or two to pick it up. So calling the call center to complete the intake just speeds the process along a little further. You can text your zip code to 898-211. You can search our website at 211uwcv.org, or you can email us. It's all there. And Pat, I'll make sure you get these slides to include with your email that goes out this afternoon. 211 has new hours. We are now answering live telephone calls and live texts from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. They are closed on holidays, and I will say that when we learned about the new hours right before COVID hit, it was a bit of a shock to our system. But we ran a lot of numbers. We did a lot of data analysis on our end, and our local data supports that decision to go to the 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Over a course of a year, we had a sprinkling of telephone calls that were outside of those hours. So we're happy to go along with Atlanta and their call center for these new hours, but I did want to make you aware of those. I wanted to take a little bit of a look at numbers. I'm kind of a numbers geek, so I always want to kind of give you a snapshot of where we currently are. The number of housing referrals, so people calling in just looking for help for payment with their rent. It might be rent deposit. It might be a housing search. They may be calling to find out about Section 8 housing vouchers. In 2019, we did over 9,000 referrals just for housing alone. And through the end of July, we're already over 4,700. So we're on track to hit that number that we did last year. The number of coordinated entry intakes and callbacks, that's another benefit of having the telephone number to call, is that the person seeking housing can call back and get a message or leave a message, whereas on those paper forms, we don't have that capability. 2019, 1,100 intakes and callbacks were made. And then through July, we've already done 775. And the vast majority of these are unduplicated individuals. We don't get that many callbacks. And I think that's kudos to Tammy and her team, that they are reaching out and getting in touch with those clients in a timely manner. But we do get some callbacks of people just looking for more information or wanting to know the status of where their application is. But the vast majority of those are unduplicated individuals. A lot of which have been newly homeless for less than a couple of days. And I think that just shows the trend that, to me, is a little heart-wrenching that we're seeing these numbers go up, but we're able to put people in touch with resources where they can either self-resolve their housing problems, get them in touch with Georgia Housing Search, get them in touch with shelters that just give them a little time to get back on their feet. Or if not, we do start them through that process of coordinated entry and assisting with housing. I encourage you to go explore our website. I'm not going to click on the link here because I'm having some technical difficulties with the link on my end, but I was expecting that, so I did take some screenshots. 211 is here to make you better able to do your own job. It's not always up to the client to call 211. You can call or search the website on their behalf. Everything in 211 is zip code based, so we always look for the agencies that are providing services that are closest to the individual in need. And you'll see here that the only information we collect is age and gender. They're not required, but the zip code is. And then if you were to scroll down on that page, you would see all sorts of different categories of which you could search. Rent and mortgage, utility assistance, food, access to health care, access to housing and shelter, clothing, and more. So I'm just going to go on the housing and shelter. So if you were to click on that, you would see a list of all of the different subcategories there. So whether it's rent payment and deposit assistance, affordable housing, and such, you could find all of the agencies that are providing those services now. And so I just looked at permanent supportive housing, services for the homeless. And you can see just a partial list of what we have there. And community shelters is what people search for the most often. Oops, we skipped a slide. Well, if you were to click on that, you would see the eligibility requirements. You got to love technology. The eligibility requirements, what their intake procedure is, what their intake hours are, where they're located, directions, lots of different things that a person would need to know before they ever access services. And I bet you that slide is, nope, it's not there. I must have deleted it out altogether. This is just my contact information. Please note that I do have a new email address and a new telephone number. We're switching phone systems at the office. But you can always contact me on my cell at 706-536-8490. And I know that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but I will open it up if anybody has any questions.
Well, before we get to questions, Denise wants you to know she thinks you have an awesome website there, Candace.
Oh, thank you.
But Yes, thank you so much for just that. And one of the reasons we wanted Candace to talk today is because I think so many of us just naturally say, well, you can go here to get this or get that. And resources are changing every day. So if you can just touch on that just for a moment, Candace, about how the information in 211 is updated and how that happens and all of that really quickly.
Sure. Resources do change all of the time, especially our food pantries, agencies that provide rent assistance. They may run out of funds for the month. We had a food pantry, Beth Salem, that I just reactivated this morning. They had a COVID scare within their volunteers, so they shut down for 3 weeks. And they had called and said, look, can you just make us inactive for, a 3-week period, and then we'll be back up and running. So resources do change all of the time. And going to 211 is the best way to get the most correct information. And having said that, if you went to our website and you knew that Home for Good started doing a food pantry, for example, but you couldn't find Home for Good underneath the food pantry, it's most likely because they called me and said, no, we don't. Can you please make that inactive? And so you can't even find that on the website anymore. So the only services that you'll find on the website are services that are actually available at the time.
And I think that's very important because, like you said, with needs going, up and down and availability of funds and this and that and the other. So, for instance, if a program was running maybe a rental assistance program and they ran out of funds, they could stop being visible at some point so that people are not getting referred. I'm trying to get to the point we don't want people to get referred to an agency who can't help them.
Right.
And then it just starts that vicious cycle.
So any other questions? Well, hearing none, for the good of the cause, I will hand it back over to Pat.
Thank you again, Candace, so much. Curtis says great info. So way to go, Candace. Our next presenter is Neil Richardson from Safe House Ministries. I didn't see he came in. Hopefully you're here, Neil. And Neil's going to talk a little bit about a survey that Safe House recently did of clients experiencing homelessness and what their what they had to say about all of us and all the services that we're providing across the community. Neil?
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. It's fun to see you in your homes. I'm in jail. I might be jealous. This is the second time we did this survey. We did it 3 years ago. And the goal was just to start getting our clients to feel like they were empowered in this process and not just subject to the process, and that their opinions were valued. It was weird planning on doing it and then doing it and being smack dab in the middle of COVID. I think in retrospect, it probably proved to be really more informative as to what's going on. I'm going to show some slides, Pat. I will tell you this, that 92 individuals completed the survey. I think that's a lot of samples. And so what broke it into several categories. First was
Hold on, Neil, if you can sit still, you're fading in and out a little bit on us. And Lauren, go ahead and advance those slides, please.
okay. I don't know how to fix fading. I am old, so that's to be expected.
And that's much better. Just stay right there.
Not talk night, but I'm old. All right. So agencies that assisted, Homeless Resource Network, Home for Good, Valley Rescue, New Horizons, Safe House all showed up on there. We thought the most interesting fact was there was not a single negative comment. Nobody said this person, this agency did anything that was inappropriate, or they refused, or they wouldn't, or they couldn't. And I think that's a strong statement. I will come back in the solutions area and talk to you a little bit about one of the things that we did pick up kind of subterranean in the data was that the clients have a tendency to think that it's on them to find a solution. And so their comments were, I go to here to get, I go to there. There was some need for, and I think 211 satisfied a lot of that need, was a place that they could go to find out where to go. And I get the sense from just looking at the data that people were feeling that this is on them, and that might provide us an opportunity to focus more on relationships with our clients and a little bit more on unity amongst ourselves to join them in that mission instead of making them feel isolated or personally responsible completely. Named providers. So let's advance that slide once more. We got a lot of names. And I'm stalling, waiting for, if we could go one more slide forward, please. There you go. We only got the 4 names that got the most. The top 2 don't surprise anybody. Michelle at Homeless Resource Network and Terry at Home for Good. I thought it was interesting that the next person is a shelter manager and the last person is a substance abuse counselor. And I thought that was kind of an interesting smattering. We have foundational support, we have housing focus, we have temporary housing focus, and then a solution focus to the cause, one of the causes. So I thought that was interesting. Not to rain on anybody's parade if people didn't make the list, but some agencies have a lot of people who access clients, and so they might have gotten a handful of votes versus as many as those 4 did. And Brandy and Michelle Michelle and Terry far above. And I think that just goes to speak to how long they've been doing what they do and how well respected they are in the homeless community. On the COVID slide, of the 92 people that completed the survey, 81 had at least one of these 2 answers. I think that's really impressive. And I think it speaks to the quality of focus that we've had as that me now.
Whoever just joined us needs to mute, please. Thank you.
The reason that we asked this question, obviously we were in the middle of the pandemic. We wanted to see, we wanted to get the sense of fear and tone. I can dance to this. We wanted to get a sense of the fear factor and also the how do you deal with this? And let me give you, for instance, kind of a cute takeaway. I've never been part of a B&E for hand sanitizer, but happened to be standing near the front desk at the safe house when a guy came through the door, burst through the door, I should say, almost knocked somebody down, stole a gallon bottle of hand sanitizer and ran out. I've never been robbed for hand sanitizer. And that didn't happen just once. But, the fact that folks recognize the importance of social distancing, the importance of washing and staying clean, spoke to the quality of focus on all of us as agencies. And I think that, looking at data around the country, I got to tell you, homeless communities around America have been ravaged by COVID. In this community, I know we have the isolation unit at the safe house. We've had less than 10 people positive that have stayed there, and not a single one of them had symptoms. And I think that's a testament to how much our clients and us were focused on hand sanitizer, on cleaning, on really deep cleaning our facilities, and on staying focused. So anyway, I thought that was important that our people are learning and wanting to learn. The last slide was solutions. 3 years ago when we did the first survey, the number one item that people thought would fix their circumstances was a job. There wasn't as much focus on solutions at that time as there was this time. And the neat thing for me is if you look at it, most of these things are legitimate. If I found a place to live, if I could get off the river, if I could get out of the street, I could get some transportation, if I could get some assistance in finding a job, keeping a job, this is a fixable problem. And as I mentioned earlier, they feel like they're personally responsible for seeking these things out and then getting that assistance. But the personal responsibility, I think, is positive for us. The thing I did notice was, if there was a takeaway, for me, it's that increased relationship focus on behalf of our agency and other agencies, I think, is a key to success in the eyes of our clients. They feel like partnering with us, having relationships with us, will go a long way for them to be both accountable and have access to resources. And then several people, not more than several, a lot of people said that they thought we could work better together, and that they felt like some of us are silos, and that if the silos communicated more effectively, they think that would benefit them and the speed of solving their issue. Going forward, there's going to be a luncheon where we're going to invite clients to come and feed them something special and have an open conversation about what we think we learned, some of what we presented here, and try to get a conversation started so that we can get a little deeper into the weeds. And then we're going to take the people that are the most vocal and that contribute suggestions, ideas, or want to participate, and then facilitate some smaller focus groups using people that have nothing to do with any of us in the COC, so that there's not a biased person sitting in the facilitation chair. So I think the goal is over the fall to really dive deeper into this and see what we can learn from our clients. I will leave you with this last thought. Since we did this, we've noticed improved communication between us and our clients and our staff. I think it's because they felt like, since we took the time to ask them what they thought, that they thought we cared. And since their opinions were sought, they thought that that provided some extra value to them as people in this process. And I think that's improved the quality of our working relationship. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for that, Neil. And Denise has asked what questions were included in the survey. If it's okay with you, I know you had sent out the survey to us to include in our announcements probably a couple months ago now. If it's okay with you, we'll go ahead and include that in the email that we send out with everybody, so everyone will have a list of the questions that were asked.
Good.
Any other questions, comments for Neil? Thank you again, Neil. And as soon as that that luncheon and those focus groups are scheduled, I'm sure you'll get the information out so we can disseminate it to everybody. Great. Thank you so much. All right, Lauren, moving right along. And we are going to go over just some information that's recently come in from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. This I thought we needed to share today because it's talking about all of us being part of the solution and having a voice in meeting the needs of our clients on a national level. Again, this slide, the links work, and we have some more links in our resources at the end of this presentation to be able to make our voices heard and let our officials in Washington know that we desperately need access to funding to continue to be able to meet the needs of our clients. And we need access to the funding, but we need it quickly. The promises of it's coming is wonderful, but you can't write an IOU. We have to be able to meet the needs of clients today. So There's the next thing that here, next slide there, Lauren. We're just want to put on here that there's a class that is being held by the National Alliance to End Homelessness on having emergency shelters and how they truly need to be housing focused and how they can help us to end homelessness. So wanted to put that out there because it's starting up pretty quickly. And of course there is a cost involved in that. But it is reimbursable if you have state or federal funding. This is a reimbursable educational opportunity through your grant. The next slide, please, Lauren. One of the most disturbing things I think that has come out this year is that the equal access law or rule that was passed in 2016 is now potentially going to be reversed. So please think about how we can facilitate and advocate for our clients to make sure that everyone has access to services regardless. So again, there's links and how we can all be a part of the solution. Again, links to all of these are on our resources page that we'll go over at the end of the presentation. The next thing is it's time to replace a few of our board members who are leaving us, and we got some new ones that have been nominated to join us. So Curtis, I'm gonna let you take it. It's all yours now. Curtis, you there?
I am when I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing?
We're here.
Pat, can I get to the nomination list?
Next slide, please, there, Lord. And I'll just point out while she's flipping those slides there, that Rabbi Schwartz, she's been with the Continuum of Care since the beginning she was the first chair of the Continuum of Care board. She's leaving us to focus more on some other work in the community. Thank you for that. And once we all can actually be in the same place together, we intend to tell her thank you appropriately. And Leroy Davis from the Russell County Veterans Council. Leroy joined the Continuum of Care board after the first, so he started in the second board. So he is again focusing on some other things in the state of Alabama. So thank you again, Leroy, for your service. Now I'm really turning it over to you, Curtis.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, we have to have, by our charter, we have to have the full membership to vote on these board members. And of course, Denise is also giving up the secretary position. So we have somebody in mind for that, and we'll decide that in September after her term ends. But right now we've got the nomination for Glenville Challenger of Veteran Services. Do I have a motion on the floor? Is everybody muted?
So moved by Candace.
Okay. Is there, there's no point in asking for a vote. We're just asking, is there anybody opposed to this nomination?
Perfect.
There is no opposition, so it passes. Congratulations, Ms. Challenger. The next one we'll have Ms. Vanita Beatty, Veterans Affairs Administration. Is there a motion on the floor?
Hold on. We have a motion from Candace.
And it looks like do we have a second?
Second.
That was Louis Robinson for second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to Vanita Beatty? Being no opposition, it passes. Thank you all. Next nominee is Michelle Zach with Pinnacle Waverly Terrace Senior Apartments. Is there a motion on the floor?
Also move.
Misha and Louis must have moved.
There's a second.
Second from Reverend Mike, it looked like. Was that correct, Reverend Mike?
Correct.
Been
Thank
moved
you.
and seconded. Anyone opposed to this nomination of Michelle Zach? All right, there's none opposed. That passes. Next one is Dr. Gloria Rogers of the Rainbow Centers and Eagle Landing Outreach. Is there a motion?
So moved.
That was Louis Robinson.
All right, it's been
Second
moved
by
and-
Candace.
all right, moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to Dr. Gloria Rogers? There is no opposition, and it passes. And I think that's it, isn't it, Pat?
We do have the nominations for the returning board chair, the co-chair, and the secretary who was nominated as well. If you want to go ahead and take care of that. We know Denise's term is going to end in September, but we have someone who has been nominated and has agreed to step in once Denise vacates her position. So we can go ahead and take care of that now if you wish.
Okay. We'll have to go back to the return, and I'll do those, and then we'll go forward to the current, to the secretary. Can we go back one slide?
There we go.
All right, we have Jennifer Lohman of City of Phoenix City. She's a returning board member. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. Is there any opposition to Mrs. Jennifer Lohman? All right, there is none. It passes. What's the next one? It went back too far, Pat.
One more. It would be Dr. Elmisha Patrick
Oh,
from
okay.
County Schools.
Dr. Patrick. Is there a second? Or a motion for Dr. Patrick?
Second by Denise. Motion, a second by Denise. I don't see a motion.
So move a motion.
All right,
All
it's been
right.
moved and seconded for Dr. Elmisha Patrick. Is there any opposition? Being none, it passes.
All right, we can go ahead and move ahead to the officers, please.
We just need to vote on the secretary at this point, right?
No, the charter indicates that board members, the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary have to be reaffirmed every year.
All right. Well, is there a nomination?
Yes,
on
there's
the
a
floor
motion.
for the chair?
There's a motion that Curtis Lockett get it by unanimous consent.
I agree.
Last time I wasn't here to defend myself. So there's been a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? All right, there is none. It passes. Now, Lisa Waters, Vice Chair. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded for Lisa Waters to remain Vice Chair. Is there any opposition to this motion? All right, there's no opposition. It carries. And now we have Lynn Sanders as a nomination to take the place of secretary from the outgoing Denise McWhirter. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for Lynn Sanders to be secretary incoming. Is there any opposition or another nomination? No opposition. It carries. Lynn Sanders will be the secretary. Congratulations, everyone, if you're on the call. And Denise, want to just say thank you for all you've done. You've been invaluable, and you set the bar very, very high for the incoming secretary. But we really appreciate you, and you've done an awesome job.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the rest of the board, we just want to say thank you, and we really appreciate you. I'm sure we'll have maybe one day we'll be able to hug you and give you some stuff in person.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I have to agree with Curtis. I was joking earlier, sort of actually not joking. Said Denise is going to have to give us a handbook on how to do what she does, so we can make sure that that we keep up to her standards. Because if not, she's going to quickly let us know, I'm sure. So we're going to count on that. Keep us on our toes, Denise.
Will
We want to go ahead and I know you will. If we can go ahead and move on to our next slide there, Lauren. Got a couple of things coming up. The first one is a HMIS user meeting training that we've been talking about for quite some time. We're going to have an all users training on August the 26th. It's going to be about an hour to an hour and a half meeting going over some HUD data quality and how to fix our mistakes and how to really take a look at our data and what it says to us and how we can improve it to make sure that we that the true story of what we're doing and in serving those in our community is being told. The meeting's on the 26th. Of course, it's going to be a virtual meeting like everything else, and we have the link in the resources at the end of this slide presentation for everybody. The United Way is having its campaign kickoff. Of course, it's going to be virtual this year, and it's going to be on Facebook Live at 12:30 on the 27th. So that's what 2 weeks from today, actually, 2 weeks from today. So there is going to be a registration link at the end of this presentation as well to make sure that you don't forget it, and you can go ahead and make sure it puts a link or a reminder on your calendar. Couple other things, if we can go ahead, Lauren, we want to make sure that everything we've talked about today regarding the National Alliance to End Homelessness and some of their initiatives, all of those things are available to you. Again, that link is here. We mentioned earlier about those of you who may not be members of the Continuum of Care, having that application. So that fillable application is linked here, and you can fill it out and just send it right on over. We have the link to the HMIS user meeting for those of you who are on the call who are in HMIS. Again, that's our Homeless Management Information System, or our database. The links to the actions and how do we act now and speak to Congress about relief efforts as we are getting through and hopefully on the other side of this pandemic. That's there as well. The link to the virtual kickoff and the Facebook page for the United Way is there. If we can go on to the next slide. This next slide, it looks very, very overwhelming, but this is just the list of documents that were received just yesterday from HUD regarding frequently asked questions, and things. If we can go ahead and advance the slide, Lauren. on all of the different funding streams related to COVID response. So this came from the Office of Special Needs, whether you get services, whether you get grant funding through the Continuum of Care, whether you get it through Emergency Solutions, whether you're a HOPWA program. We also threw in there the youth homeless demonstration projects. We don't have any of those here locally, but it still is interesting to read and have some idea of what's going on some other places. Talking about, then we had some things that were sent from our Atlanta regional office on eviction information, tenant repayment information, toolkits for conversing with and interacting with landlords and those kinds of things. So we wanted to make sure everybody had that, and it was in one spot. Again, it's the links on the presentation work, and it can also be found on our webpage as well. And then for our friends who we're having to do referrals for programs, and if the program is not able to meet the needs of the client, we've always had this Appendix J. And then one of our wonderful friends over at New Horizons made it very clear that we needed to make it a automated fillable form so it can be done real time. So we've gone ahead and linked that here too, so that those clients can get re-referred pretty quickly if they have needs that can't be met by a program that they were referred to. So that being said, we've seen over the past couple of months, lots and lots of us are sort of in a holding pattern, waiting for funding to come available, waiting for new programs to open up based on that funding that's been promised either from the federal or the state. But I'm really, really happy to announce that just this morning, the Moving to Work program that's run from the Housing Authority, all of the details have been worked out so that the Moving to Work vouchers will be available to clients of providers throughout the community, as long as the providers are in compliance with the rules and regulations that are laid out in the newly revised and developed handbook from the Housing Authority on the Moving to Work voucher. The Moving to Work voucher, and I think John Castile from the Housing Authority was on there, but I'm just going to try my best. And if you want to chime in, John, please do. But the Moving to Work voucher will provide financial assistance, rental assistance to households in our community who meet the financial guidelines of 50% or less of area median income, like most of our other grants. It is a rental assistance program for a minimum of a year. It could go further. Of course, it's income-based. It's very much like Section 8, but with a case management component. And that's the key, is having that case management component. Neil talked about relationships. Neil talked about how clients want someone to assist them and work with them through a process. And so case management is a huge part of that. So for all of us who have been sort of waiting for something to give and having an ability or an option for our clients, Mr. Louis was mentioning, John Castile is waiting in the lobby. He doesn't know. I was just talking about him, I guess. But Mr. Louis was talking about landlords as we were starting to get ready for this call, and I said, hold on, we're about to have a real need. The opportunities for the needs to be met of our clients right now, we have the tools at our hands, and we have the vouchers that are available. And again, it just means that we all have to just work together, knock down those silos a little bit, reach out our hands to each other, reach out our hands to the clients, and really we can make a huge impact in those experiencing homelessness and in the quality of life for all of us in our community. The handbook will be going out tomorrow morning for everyone to review. We have one MOU that just needs to be signed off on this afternoon, and the handbook will go out. Home for Good acts as the clearinghouse and the oversight for compliance with case management and for eligibility before the vouchers are turned in. So that is very, very exciting. I know several of you organizations were waiting for the details to get worked out. Well, we have finally gotten here. Thanks to the hard work of the Housing Authority, and thanks to Terry's diligence in making sure that all the details and everything else was covered in the handbook. I think this will we will be able to start taking people from homelessness to housing very quickly. Any questions, concerns? This is the time we can have some free talk now.
What about the number of vouchers?
Mr. Louie, I'm going to, again, John, if you're there, you can unmute yourself, but if I remember correctly, a couple weeks ago, there were 73 vouchers available.
Wow.
That's 73 households who can end their homelessness. That's pretty impactful. Okay, having no conversation on that, again, those handbooks, the link to the handbook we will send out tomorrow. It literally spells out step by step every part of the process, how a person gets referred, what the requirements are, all the documentation you need to have. All of those things are very, very clearly spelled out, so that literally you can take it from step one all the way through the process. And that, Curtis, I'm done. I have nothing else at this point. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew we do have those vouchers available, and it's very exciting that we're going to be able to meet the needs of those in our community. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Pat, for all that information. Do we have anything else from anyone for the edification of the group? Anything you need to pass on or get out to us that we can help you with? All righty. Well, if any of the new members on, we thank everybody for participating, and we hope that you'll continue to do so. Not so much for ourselves. I know we're all busy. COVID won't let us get together, but you know, there's still a lot of people who are out here that need us to be having these meetings and doing things behind the scenes and out front. You know, there's a lot of people out there still interacting with the community to get things done, giving out food, and Mr. Louie and a whole lot of people. You start calling names, you miss someone, but there's a lot of people that keep doing this job and do what they need to do. So I really appreciate everything you do, and thank you for your time, for being on the board and the membership, and just whatever you're doing for the community, big and small. Sometimes it's just thinking, listening to people talk about their problems. That's the blessing for some people. So thank you all, and we really appreciate you. And Pat, we really appreciate you coordinating everything and keeping it in the road for us. And anything we can do to help you, just please reach out to us. By that, I mean Pat. And that's all I have. And do I have a motion to adjourn for this year? Have a motion? Got a second? We have a motion second to adjourn. Thank you all. Have a blessed day and week and month and year, rest of it.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.